Hi and welcome to PowerÄgg. For this video, we will look at building a self-service report. We'll provide the user with the freedom to select the visual type from several options available and to choose what fields to assign to it. Additionally, we have the option of switching between a light theme and a dark theme. Let's have a look at how we can accomplish some great and some true self-service reporting. As always, you can find the PBX file on the GitHub repository and feel free to download it, use it, and fill it with your own data and customize it as you want. Alright, so in this report, the user has the option to dynamically select the x-axis, the y-axis, what values to assign to a scatter plot or to a matrix or to a bar chart or to a line chart. We're going to have a look at that in a second. And to dynamically select what legend to apply. So here, for example, we have a scatter plot from a previous video, if you want to have a look at it. And we can here select what y-axis or x-axis value we want. We're using field parameters for this. So this is another example of how powerful field parameters are, because we are building a self-service report based completely on field parameters. All right, so what we can do here is we can switch to the matrix if we want. So we go to the matrix view and we're going to open up the filter pane and we're going to select, for example, we want customer country as a column, but we want color instead. We can select customer country and color, but we're going to select just color. And then we have the available data. It's going to select color as a column, and the user also has the option to select what row he or she wants. So for example, if I want customer country, I can click on customer country. If I want customer country and brand, we can click that, so that the user also has the ability to drill in to the data a little bit more. We can also add a second measure. We can add a third measure. We can select a different measure, of course, and here we can filter customer and product, right? So we have the dynamic filter pane. That's cool. We have custom buttons to switch between different types of visuals. And the cool thing is that this report also has is the option to switch between a light theme and a dark theme. So let's have a look at that. If I click this button, we're going to switch to the dark theme. And here we can see the scatter plot in the dark theme. And of course, everything is adjusted as well. That includes the filter panes, the visuals, the buttons have been inverted in the color. And yeah, so let's have a look at how we can build this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to check our requirements. These are the following. We need a theme changer, which allows the user to switch between a light theme and a dark theme. We need a dynamic filter pane, which allows the user to dynamically filter and adjust the fields that he or she wants in the visuals. We have many different views and we need different visuals for each of these views. And then we have the self-service customization, which is the end result of the report, where the user can customize the visuals depending on the user needs. Okay, so we have our requirements, but now let's have a closer look at how we can fulfill these requirements. And one of the first things I usually do is I create my canvas. And on that canvas, I create the navigation and all the navigation paths and think about what bookmarks and views there are and so on. And to start off, I create all the icons and the buttons I need for the different views I'm going to create. So let's have a closer look at the buttons and the icons that I created and understand how they work. All right, back in Power BI, let's have a look at the buttons and the icons we created. All right, so of course, the coolest thing first, we have the theme changer button. And this is a PNG icon I downloaded. And in this case, it was black, but I used a online converter that allows me to change a certain color on a PNG image to a different color and then export it again. If you want to have the link to that page, it's provided in the description below. You can go on there and upload a PNG and then change a color and go back. So it's nice to have the icon in two different colors for the light theme and the dark theme. You don't have to download a new icon or try and find something else. All right. And on top of the icon is a blank button. If you want to have a look at how this works, so what this does is that the blank button has a shading if I do a mouse over, and it creates an effect. And this button also has an action which goes to a bookmark. And if you want to know more about buttons, there's a video I created on buttons and filter panes, and I advise you to have a look at that, because I'm not going to go through this how I created this. I'm just going to quickly show you how this works. Right, so we have the theme changer buttons, then we have all the icons for the different visuals, and we don't just have single icons, we have icons on top of other icons that have a different effect whether something is selected or not. So for example, if I select the bar and line chart, you can see that now there's a different button on top of it with a different effect that shows me that I've selected this value. Okay, and if we want to open the filter pane, we've created here a button or an icon with an action that allows me to control click it, and it opens the filter pane. And then a different button is layered depending on the bookmark, and this allows me to close this again. And of course we can switch visual, so I'm going to go to the line chart. I'm going to show you something else I've done. I'm going to open the filter pane. So here we have a line chart with a single y-axis, but if I want a secondary y-axis, you can go ahead and click this button, and this now shows me a different visual with a y-axis and a secondary y-axis that I can choose. And it doesn't have the option of choosing a legend anymore, because that's not applicable. And then again, here's a different button. So if I close this now, I can see in full mode the line chart that has a secondary y-axis on top of it. Yep. And if I go back to the matrix and so on, I can switch between the different values. And of course here the same thing applies for the light theme. So we have the light theme, and here we have all the buttons as well. And let's have a look at how we organize the buttons, because that is one of the most important things. We're going to go on view, we're going to go on selection, and we can here see that we have a whole lot of groups, and everything is organized in groups, so that's really important. And you can see here we have our arrows, and you can see how many arrows we have. Yeah, we have arrows for when we have a view where the bar and line chart is shown with the filter pane, and we have the arrow up that allows us to close it. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. I'm going to go to the bar line. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to select this, and we can see here that now I've selected this. This is in the group of arrows. This is the bar line up arrow, and this has a different action than all the other arrows. And this same thing goes for my buttons. Here we have the bar line selected button, and that's a group of a blank button and an image. Yeah, and this way you stay organized, even though there's a lot of stuff in the report and it's quite complex, and you have a good overview, and you don't do any mistakes, because one of the worst things that can happen is if you do such a complex interface where the user can switch between visuals, custom filter panes, and you have different filter panes on top of filter panes on top of filter panes that are shown or hidden depending on what bookmark is selected, that perhaps you miss on one icon a bookmark or something like that, or you have the wrong action, or you have a copy paste mistake, and the report will be broken. Yeah, and to avoid this, it is always advised to organize and group your selections. So the next step would be to check our visuals and to create our field parameters. And our visuals have several different field parameters, so we're going to create a lot of field parameters. All right, so we are in Power BI again, so let's have a look at what we're going to create. This is what we have already, is the visual. I've already created the template and I've added all the visuals and stuff. And this is an empty line chart, and we're going to add the x-axis, y-axis, and legend. But we're going to do this using field parameters so that the user can dynamically choose what to put into the x-axis, y-axis, and legend. And by adding field parameters to each of these fields, we have a completely dynamic table where everyone can choose whatever they want. So we're going to go on modeling, we're going to go fields, we're going to name this x-axis because we first create the x-axis. We don't want a slicer on the page. And let's have a quick think. We want date dimensions, so we want delivery date and order date. Then we want product product fields, so we have brand, category, then we have subcategory and color, and then we're going to add some geographic dimensions, which would be the store country. I'm gonna name the store country quickly, store country, and then we have the customer country as well that we want. I'm gonna name this as well, customer country. Okay, and then we click create, and this is going to create a little table for us with field parameters. At the bottom here we can see we have x-axis, and I'm gonna add this to a filter. And we can see here we have all the different fields, and this is not good enough yet because this is kind of unorganized. Everything is mixed up. So let's categorize this. We're going to do this, and this is also in a different video how to do this, but I'm gonna quickly do this again. I'm gonna add date into the the logic, so that the order date and the delivery date are each categorized as date. I'm going to do the same thing for the product attributes. So we have product here. I'm going to copy paste this across the product values. So color, and then finally we have geography. Yep. And I'm gonna also add this to the customer country, and we're gonna click enter. This is going to load, and what we get now is a second field called value for. I'm gonna go down and we're gonna drag this value on top of the x-axis field. And now we have categories. All right, so we have a little hierarchy in the filter, and we can open up date, and then we have delivery order date, and then we have geography, where you can switch between the different country types, and then we have our product values. All right, so let's have a look if this works. Let's add a measure to this this line chart. And in this case, I just want to check total cost. I'm going to add this to the y-axis, and I'm going to add this x-axis field. And now what should happen if I select brand, the x-axis is going to show brand. It's going to show total cost by brand. And if we select brand and category, we have both brand and category, and we can drill down and see brand and category. So we need to do what we did here is we added a measure. We don't want a static measure in the y-axis. We also want the user to be able to choose what y-axis value to have. So we're going to create another field parameter called y-axis. So I'm going to go new fields. We're going to name this y-axis. And also, we don't want a slicer on the page. And in this y-axis, we're going to add all our measures. So we want cost, net price, number of orders, profit margin, quantity, and total cost. We're going to click create, and this is going to create another table for us. And here we don't have to do anything. We don't have to categorize or create a hierarchy. So we're just going to drag this y-axis that we created into the filter. So let's drag this here. And here we can see we have single select formatted, so that's good. We definitely only want the user to be able to select one y-axis. We can also, if we could multi-select, but in this case I want to keep it simple. And we're going to now also add this y-axis value to the y-axis. And now if I'm gonna I just want categories, so I'm gonna deselect brand, so this is a bit more simple. So we now have all the categories, product categories, and now I want to see quantity. I can click quantity, and now it adjusts and shows me quantity. If I want profit margin, it goes on profit margin. The cool thing is everything is formatted, everything is dynamic and automatic, and this is just amazing. Field parameters are really on another level. All right, so the last thing we want to do is on this single line chart, we also want a legend. And the legend would be similar to the x-axis values where we have some categories. So let's again go modeling, create this, and add it to the filter and the chart. But one different thing we have here, I'm gonna name this just legend, and I'm going to add a few values. So let's say we want product category, color, and brand. I also want the user to be able to say, I don't want anything, okay? Because the thing is, if we add this now to the legend, if we create the field parameters and we add it to the legend, something's going to be selected, okay? And to avoid this, we have a measure that equals blank, and I'm going to put it at the top and click create. I'm going to show you what this can do. So let's select the legend filter, and we have legend here, so I'm going to drag legend into the field, and we want this to be single select, so I'm gonna just quickly change this to single select, and we have none selected. Okay, so we're going to go back to the chart, to the line chart, and we're going to add this legend value to legend. Okay, so now I have everything in category, but I want also to see it split up by brand. So if I click brand, it's going to now show me all the brands, and it's going to create a line chart for each brand. Okay, and this is pretty cool. So now this looks pretty messy. So let's say the user doesn't want this, just click on none. Okay, or I want everything split up by color, and everything split up by color. Yeah, and this is amazing. This is dynamic and fully adjusts fully and is insanely quick in the performance. Okay, so what we have for the line chart now is we want to be able to add a secondary axis, and we could create another field parameter for the secondary axis and say none is the base thing, but we want to make this a bit more clear, so that perhaps the user wants a separate chart for the secondary axis. So what we can do is we can click on secondary axis, and now we don't have a legend. Because for the secondary axis we can't have a legend, so we need a second chart, and here we're not going to put a value in the legend. Instead, we're going to create another field parameter as is the same as the y-axis with all the measures, and we're going to add this field to the table as well, and we're gonna see how this is going to work. So because I clicked this button, we have a new visual on top of the other one. So we need to add all the fields again. And we're gonna have to do this for every single visual. Yeah, so this is a bit tedious, but it's worth it, okay? So here we're also going to add the x-axis to the x-axis, the y-axis to the y-axis. Okay, and now we're going to create another field parameter as the secondary y-axis. We're going to go on new parameter fields. I'm going to name the secondary y-axis. I don't want a slicer, and we're going to simply select all the measures. We're going to add none as well. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to give the user the option of not having one. And we're going to click create. And this should create the secondary y-axis field parameter table. Oops. And we're going to open this up, drag this into the y-axis field, and then now we have everything. So now we need to filter something. So let's add this to the filter. Okay, and we have single select again. And now let's say we want the profit margin versus the number of orders. And voila, there we have it. We can add a second. So if we go back to primary, we're going back and we can see here we can add a legend. And this is not going to affect the other chart we have, where we have the secondary y-axis. And we can click none. And basically what we're going to do, or what I have done, is I've done this for every single view. Okay, so I'm repeating this process for every chart. So let's have a look at what I did. And as you can see here in the fields, you can see all the different field parameters I have. I've scattered values, which is for the scatter chart. I've scattered x-axis, which is the x-axis value for the scatter plot. And I've done this for the matrix. I've done this for the line. I've done this for the line with the secondary. I've done this for the bar chart as well. And this is going to make this is the base of the self-service report. And this gives us the option of picking, choosing the x-axis, the measure, the y-axis, however I wanted to adjust everything. And then if I have this view, I can simply save this as a personal bookmark for actual real life use. Or I can share the link with someone that has all the settings, and it's going to provide another user with a link where once clicked upon, it will open up exactly the same view that you had previously. All right, let's have a closer look at the filters and the filter pane. Okay, we are in Power BI again, and we previously created a few filters with the field parameters for the single line and the secondary line chart. But let's have a closer look at how these filters, how the filters adjust depending on what visual is selected. So if I select the bar chart and I open up the filter pane, you can see that here now there is a different line of filters. We have the x-axis again, we are double using it in the y-axis, but if we go now on the matrix, for example, and we open up the filter pane, we have different filters. We have the matrix rows, we have the matrix columns, and we have the matrix measures. And as you can see, the slicers have different attributes. Here we have multi-select now, so we can select both the profit margin and the cost if we want, and do the same thing with the columns and the rows. And depending on what visual there is, there are different field parameters. So if we go on the scatter plot, we can see here on the scatter values, we have different granularities. This is another field parameter, and we have to do this for every single visual. We have to adjust field parameters, we have to create new field parameters, and we have to create new filters. And depending on what is selected up here, the filter pane adjusts accordingly. And the same thing for the light theme. If we go on the light theme, again, we have here a filter pane, and this is a duplicate. Everything is duplicated. Everything had to be done nearly twice. So the first time it was done everything was created. The second time it was done, it was just adjusted to the dark theme. All right, so now let's have a look at our objects and our object grouping and see how we organize the report. Okay, so the key to building this report successfully is to stay organized. And to stay organized, we have to really name our objects and use the selection pane to the full extent. So let's have a look at the different groups we have here. For example, we have the logo group. So let's open this up and have a look. We have a shape, so the shape is the line, and then we have the two images, the Contoso image and then the Power BI image. And I grouped this and I named this logo so that it is out of the way and it doesn't bother me when working throughout the report. Then we have all our charts. So let's open this up and we can see we have different type of chart visuals that we're showing and hiding depending on what bookmark or what view is selected. In this case, we are seeing the scatter open chart. I can hide this and it will be gone, and I can show this and it will be there. And you can see here there's the bar and line chart in the full mode, so that when this filter pane is closed up, we can see the chart in full size. And if it's the filter pane is open, we have the smaller size, which is another object here. And I named this, so we have bar line full in the full view, and then we have bar line open in the open filter view. All right, then we have our filter pane, and our filter pane has all our different filters, and we're again showing hiding depending on what is selected on the view and the bookmarks. And in the back we always have our shape, which is the background of the filter. All right, then we have all our different arrows in a group, and for each view we need different arrows, because depending on what view we are in, we need a different arrow to perform a different action. Because if we just have one arrow, we cannot, depending on what view we are in, choose a different action for this arrow. So we have to create multiple arrows on top of each other and hide or show the one we want. Then we have our theme changer, which is just a blank button on top of the image. And then we have our buttons. So we have all our buttons, and then we have the selected version and the unselected version. And if we open this up again, we have a blank button on top of the image to create a certain effect depending on where we are in the bookmarks. All right, for the final part, we have our views and our bookmarks. So let's have a look at that. All right, we're back in Power BI, and I opened up the bookmarks view and the selection view, the panes. And let's have a look at the different bookmarks we created. All right, so we are in the dark mode. So I have all the bookmarks for the dark mode, but I also have the same bookmarks, but with different selections for the light theme. So if we go on the light theme and we have a look at the different bookmarks, we can click on the line double open, and we can see that we are now viewing or hiding different filters depending on the bookmark. Okay, so let's go back to the dark mode and have a closer look at this. Let me go on dark line single full, and you can see that this is the view we are currently in. This is the dark line single full view, where we are showing a chart which is bigger. Let me have a look at the object. It's called line full single. So this is the line chart in the full view mode for the single line selection. And we can see that the filter pane is completely hidden. And we can see that for the buttons, we have all the unselected buttons showing, except for the line chart, we are showing the selected button and we're hiding the unselected button. And for the arrows, we can have a look at the arrows, and we can see that we have the line single arrow down selected because we are in the dark line single full view. Okay. Now if we click this button, we're going to jump to a different bookmark, and this is the line single open bookmark. And in this bookmark, we can see that we have a different arrow selected. We have the line single arrow up, which has a different action, goes back to the full view. Then we have the filter pane showing, We can see with different objects hidden. We have the x-axis, the legend showing, because for the single view we can add, for the single line chart we can add a legend. And you can see that we have all the filters for the scatter plot and the bar and line chart and the matrix hidden. And you can see that we have this button showing up, which allows us to jump to a different bookmark. So if we click this, we jump to the dark line double open bookmark. And in this bookmark, we are showing a different chart. So if we go down to charts, we can see that we are now viewing the line open secondary chart. And you can also see that we added a different filter. And this filter is the line secondary y-axis filter in the filter pane. Yep, and the same is for the arrow. We are showing the different arrow in this view. This is the arrow for the double line chart. So if we have a look, we can see here line double arrow up. Yep, and if we check this button here and we check the action, we can see that for the theme changer, I simply added a page navigation action, which goes to the light theme instead of adding a bookmark, so that whatever was selected on the light theme is still there once you go back to it. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this helped you. Feel free to download the PBX file in the from the GitHub repository. And please feel free to subscribe to stay up to date with any new videos that I will be going to release.